I met Ava on a cold January evening in Seattle. The kind of night where the rain doesn't fall, it lingers, slow and steady, like the world is sighing. She walked into our apartment like a storm wrapped in silence. My boyfriend Tyler introduced us briefly, casually, like she didn't mean much, but I saw the way his eyes shifted when she spoke. Her name hung in the air long after she was gone, Ava. She was quiet, distant, wrapped in this invisible armor that only made me want to know her more. She didn't smile much, didn't make small talk, but her eyes gray-blue, sharp and tired, spoke in ways that words never could. Tyler told me early on, don't get close to her. She's been through hell and she's complicated. I remember asking what kind of hell, and he just shook his head like it wasn't his story to tell. So I stayed back for a while. Tyler and I had been together almost 2 years then. We were building something slow, imperfect, but real. We lived in a half-furnished apartment with creaky floors and a golden retriever who thought she owned the couch. We had Sunday mornings with coffee and worn-out flannel robes, late-night arguments that ended in tangled apologies, and plans for maybe getting engaged if life didn't throw another curveball. But Ava's presence became a strange thread in our story, always just out of reach, always shadowed by something unspoken. She'd come over when Tyler was out of town, said she was checking on the dog or watering his plants. At first, it made me uneasy, but over time, we started talking. Not deeply, just small things. Her favorite tea, a book she liked, how she hated small elevators. She always looked like she had something to say, but held it back at the last second. Then came that night. It was a Tuesday, cold and wet. Tyler was in San Diego for work, and I was curled up with a glass of wine when the doorbell rang. It was Ava, soaked from head to toe, her lips pale, her fingers trembling. "He's not answering," she whispered, voice tight. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't ask questions. I just let her in. I gave her a towel, one of Tyler's hoodies, and sat beside her on the kitchen floor while she tried to catch her breath. She told me she'd had a panic attack while driving, that she'd pulled over and cried for an hour, that the silence scared her. Her vulnerability wasn't performative, which was raw, unfiltered, like she didn't have the strength to pretend. I found myself holding her hand, not out of sympathy, but out of something deeper. A strange ache bloomed in my chest, protective, intimate, dangerous. That night, I saw a side of her no one talked about. Not the broken girl behind the mysterious warnings, but a woman who carried pain like it was stitched into her skin. And the way she looked at Megadid wasn't just gratitude. It was longing, hunger, a silent question she didn't dare ask. When she finally stood to leave, her fingers brushed mine. "Please don't tell him I was here," she said, eyes locking with mine. "He wouldn't understand." My throat tightened, but I nodded. She walked out into the rain, and I stood there for a long time, staring at the door. Something had changed. I wasn't just his girlfriend anymore. I had stepped into something I couldn't explain, something delicate and forbidden. And in that quiet, heavy moment, I knew this wasn't just about Ava needing help. It was about us, me and her, colliding into something neither of us expected. A secret had been planted between my ribs, and it pulsed with every heartbeat. I should have told Tyler. I should have drawn a line, but I didn't. Instead, I replayed that night in my head again and again. The way she leaned into me, the way her voice broke when she said my name, the way her presence made everything else feel less real. And for the first time in 2 years, I started questioning who I really wanted. Not just in bed, not just on weekends, but in the lonely, quiet moments that define love. Ava was no longer just his friend. She was the beginning of something I couldn't control him deep down. I didn't want to. Asterisk, the days after that night with Ava felt heavy, like I was walking through fog that never lifted. I couldn't stop thinking about her, about the way her fingers lingered on mine, the way her voice trembled when she asked me not to tell Tyler. I wanted to believe it was just sympathy, a one-time moment of softness, but it wasn't. It was Something more, something dangerous. I tried to push it away, focus on my life with Tyler, but things started feeling off. He was distracted, shorter with me, glued to his phone late at night. And every time I mentioned Avi Van casually his mood would shift. His jaw would tighten, his answers clipped. It felt like I was stepping into a puzzle he never wanted me to solve. I started asking myself questions I'd buried. Why was he so protective over her? Why didn't he ever talk about their past? Why did he trust her enough to keep her around but never let me near her? The silence around her became louder than anything else in our relationship. Then came that weekend. Tyler had to travel again, this time to Chicago for a tech conference. I almost felt relief watching him leave, like I could finally breathe without the weight of pretending. That same evening, as the sky turned orange over the Seattle skyline, I got a text. It was Ava. Can I come over? Just to talk? I stared at the screen for a long time. I should have said no. But my fingers moved before my brain caught up. I typed, "Yeah, come by." And with that one message, I opened a door I wasn't ready to close. She came over a little after 8 p.m. wearing that same worn denim jacket. Hair pulled back like she didn't care how she looked, but somehow still looked beautiful. Without trying. We didn't say much at first. Just sat on the couch, close, but not touching. I poured her a glass of red wine. She took small sips, eyes focused on the floor. Then she finally spoke. "Do you ever feel like you're in love with someone who isn't really there?" I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She exhaled, slow and deep. "Tyler and we were together before you. A long time ago. We weren't supposed to fall in love. I was the girl he kept in the shadows." I ended it. He didn't take it well. My heart dropped. "He never told me." "Of course not," she said, voice soft. "He wanted to protect what he has with you. He wanted to protect himself. Couldn't breathe for a second. So what now? He still talks to you?" She nodded. "When he's drunk, when he's angry, still says he loves me, that he never stopped. But he doesn't really want me. He just doesn't want to lose." I felt sick. "So what am I? Just a distraction." Ava turned to me then, her eyes full of tears. "No, you're the one thing he's afraid to lose. Because if you find out the truth, it's over for him." Her hand brushed mine, and I should have pulled away. I should have said, "This is too much." But I didn't. I sat there frozen in that moment where everything I thought I knew came undone. Ava leaned closer. "I know you feel it too," she whispered. "This thing between us. I see the way you look at me. I feel it every time I'm near you." My lips parted, but I had no words. I felt raw, stripped down to the nerves. She placed her hand on my chest, right over my heart, and said the words that would burn into my memory forever. "Please, touch me just once. Make me feel something that's real again." And I did. We didn't speak as it happened. We just let the silence guide us, our hands and mouths finding answers in each other's skin. It wasn't just lust. It was sorrow, confusion, anger, all tangled into one desperate need to feel alive. And when it was over, she kissed my shoulder and whispered, "Thank you." I didn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling, knowing I had just shattered something I could never put back together. And the scariest part, I didn't feel regret. I felt something else, something terrifying. I felt like I had finally woken up. The morning after Ava and I crossed that line, everything felt heavier, like the air in the apartment had changed. I could still smell her perfume on the pillow, feel her fingers on my skin. And yet I couldn't decide if what we did was beautiful or unforgivable. Maybe both. The silence between us after was soft, not awkward, but full of meaning, like we both knew we had touched something dangerous and delicate. When she left, she didn't say much, just a look. One of those looks you feel in your bones. That entire day, I couldn't stop replaying it, all her words, her touch. The way her voice cracked when she said she wanted something real. But underneath the emotion was a slow, creeping guilt. Tyler was flying home that night, and I couldn't figure out how to look him in the eye knowing everything had changed. I kept telling myself it was just one night. That maybe Ava had used. Me, that maybe I had used her too. But it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like waking up from a long, numb sleep. When Tyler finally walked through the door, suitcase in hand, I felt my stomach twist. He kissed me like nothing had happened, made a joke about airport food, and flopped on the couch. I stood there frozen, watching the man I'd shared my life with. And all I could think was, you don't even see me anymore. Over the next few days, the air between us shifted. He grew colder, distant. He'd scroll through his phone when I spoke, barely look up during dinner. And any time I said Ava's name, just casually his eyes would harden, like a storm was building just under his skin. Then one night, everything exploded. We were fighting about something stupid, laundry. I think out of nowhere, he slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "I told you not to get close to her." His voice cracked with rage, not fear. I stared at him, heart pounding. Why? What were you so afraid of? "'Cause she ruins people," he snapped. "'Cause she takes whatever love you give her and burns it down." I took a shaky breath. You were in love with her. His silence was the only answer I needed. She told me everything, Tyler. You didn't just have history. You were in love. She left and you never got over it. You found me, and maybe I was safe, but I was never her. He laughed, a bitter, empty sound. You think she's innocent? You think she didn't know what she was doing? My voice rose, and you did. You kept her around, told me to stay away, but you still called her when you were drunk. You never stopped loving her. It's not for 1 second. His face dropped, all the fight leaving him at once. And then I said it, the thing I never thought I'd say. You don't love me, Tyler. You love the idea of me. You love that I didn't know the truth. And when he didn't respond, when he just sat there, broken and quiet, I knew it was over. Everything between us had been built on half-truths and silence. And Ava, she wasn't just a victim in this. She was the match and I was the fire. She'd pulled me in and I had let her. Whether it was out of revenge or longing, I still didn't know. But even in that mess, I couldn't bring myself to hate her. Because when we were together, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, seen, wanted, real. Maybe that made me weak. Or maybe it made me honest. Either way, I was done pretending. I packed a bag that night. Just a few things. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't leave a note. I just walked out of that apartment with the dog, my keys, and the sick feeling that nothing in my life had been what I thought it was. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay in a home built on lies. And maybe, just maybe, that meant something better was waiting on the other side. Asterisk. It took me a few weeks to find a rhythm after I left Tyler. I stayed in a friend's guest room for a while, then moved into a small one-bedroom near the water in West Seattle. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. The kind of place where you could hear seagulls in the morning and rain tapping softly against the windows at night. For the first time in years, I didn't have to be anything for anyone. No girlfriend, no peacekeeper, no emotional crutch. Just me and a golden retriever who still claimed the couch like she paid rent. But even with that freedom, I couldn't stop thinking about Ava. Not in the same way as before. This time it was deeper, more complicated. I didn't know if what we shared was a mistake or the start of something real. She hadn't called since that night. No texts, no visits. It was like she'd vanished from my life the moment I walked away from his. Part of me understood. She probably thought I hated her, or that I was just another mess she helped create. But another part of Miss Stronger, louder, wanted to believe she stayed away because she felt what I felt, and it scared her. One rainy evening, about a month after I moved out, I walked by a small coffee shop I hadn't noticed before. I stopped cold when I saw her inside, sitting alone at a corner table, staring out the window like she was waiting for someone who never came. My heart kicked hard in my chest. I stood there for a full minute, deciding whether to walk in or keep pretending I was ready to forget. Then her eyes met mine through the glass. No words, just a quiet recognition, like both of us had been holding our breath for too long. I walked in without thinking. She didn't smile, just nodded toward the seat across from her. We sat in silence at first, the air thick with everything we weren't saying. Finally, she whispered, "I thought you hated me." I shook my head. Slowly, I could never hate you. But I needed time. You'll figure out who I am without him. Without all of that. She looked down at her hands, fidgeting with the edge of her sweater. I ruin things. I ruin people. Her voice was barely audible. I reached across the table, gently touched her fingers. You didn't ruin me. You woke me up. Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time since I'd met her, she didn't try to hide them, she let them fall. We talked for hours that night about everything. Her past with Tyler, her own fears, how lonely she'd been even when she pretended not to care. She confessed that she never meant to fall for me, that it just happened. You were warm, she said, and I was freezing. I told her the truth, every messy, tangled part of it, that I didn't know what the future looked like, that I was scared too. But when I was with her, I felt more like myself than I ever had with anyone else. We didn't make any promises that night, no dramatic declarations. It's just two women sitting across from each other, finally honest. She walked me home in the rain, neither of us caring we were getting soaked. At my door, she hesitated. "Are you sure?" She asked softly. "Yes," I said, "but this time, let's not hide." She nodded, and I pulled her inside. We didn't rush. We didn't try to erase the past. We took our time, slow kisses, quiet laughter, a kind of love that wasn't loud or flashy, but steady and real. In the soft light of morning, with her arm draped over my waist and the dog snoring at our feet, I realized something. Love doesn't always look how you expect. Sometimes it starts in betrayal, in confusion, in the ashes of something broken. But if you're brave enough to face it, to own it can become something beautiful, something healing. She didn't save me. I didn't save her. We found each other in the middle of the wreckage and decided to stay. And in that choice, we built something honest, something ours. No lies, no fear. Just love,